going on YouTube? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing this Lionel Messi poster that I created last night. I just want to show you another part of the sports posters that I'm making. So I made the Costas Meniscus one the other day and you guys really enjoyed it. And now I'm going to make the Lionel Messi one, as there's a lot of speculation going around his name at the moment, and I just thought it'd be a good one to make. So if this is going to be the last time we see him in a Barcelona shirt, I thought it'd be best to make a poster on it and just appreciate it for what it is. So let's get straight into it. So the first thing you're going to need to do is get an A4 black background, okay? Once you've done this, you're just going to get your images, which I'm going to leave in the description below, and you're just going to drop them into Photoshop. Right guys, so I've got my first image in Photoshop. Now I'm just going to enlarge it and then make it black and white, just so that I can use this as a background layer. So if I just increase the size, you want to make sure that Messi is pretty much the center of the background, like so. It doesn't really matter how big it is. So if I make it like that, and I'm going to just add a black and white to it. So if you go to image, adjustments, and then go down to black and white, and then you just get this. So that's all we need to do for that. And now I'm going to add a blur to it. So if I go to filter, blur, and then Gaussian blur, as you can see, if I add like a 9.3, something like that, it's going to blend well with the background. So that's the background done. The next thing I'm going to do is probably add some texture. So texture is probably the key to most of these designs. Like there's a lot of different things you can do with it. So I'm just going to use probably one that I haven't used before, probably that one. That will look good. And then we'll just drop it over the top. So now that's in, I'm just going to rotate it so it fits the screen, move it to the corner, and then enlarge it. So now we've got that. Now we're going to use blending modes to overlay it over the top. You want to make it sort of quite textured, but not too much so you can't see the design. Personal preference really. I quite like subtract or exclusion. I'm going to use linear dodge. So there we go. We've got a little bit of texture over the top. We got our image in the background. That's that all done. So the next thing we're going to do is probably add the main part of the design, which is going to be Messi. So we're going to need to go to the image, which is this one, and then we're going to cut him out. If you want to do this with the pen tool, that's fine. You should do it with the pen tool, but I'm going to just use a quick selection tool just to speed this video up. Right, so the next thing to do is probably add a drop shadow on this image. So if we double click it, then we can go to drop shadow. So then it just makes it look a bit more 3D, a bit more depth, and that's it for that. Now we're going to add our red stripe along the screen. So if you want to select your rectangle tool and just probably get a fairly thick rectangle, I'm just going to put the fill to red, and then we're going to turn off the stroke, and now we're just going to rotate it so it's on its side and then drag it to the corner of the design. So now we just need to stretch it and then position it so it's in the right area. So now we're just going to use a blending mode just to overlay it. So we can either use overlay or multiply, anything you really want to use. I'm going to use overlay for this design, and then I'm going to add a drop shadow to this as well, just so it's got a bit of depth too. Don't need to, we'll just increase the spread maybe a bit and maybe increase the opacity just so it looks quite the next thing we're going to do is add some text. So this is going to be a key part of the design. So now we're just going to get our text tool, and we're going to get probably a Reisenberg font. So you're going to have to download this off the font. And now we're just going to type this in, white color, and then we're going to get the size and increase it. This is going to be probably placed on the bottom of the design. So we're going to get that one, and then we're going to just drag and drop this one and put it just a bit below, like so. So there's a small gap, and then we're just going to type Messi. I just like the bit of offset of the text, so it doesn't look too like formal and in line with each other. And I'm just going to add a small texture over that. Depending on what you want to use, you can choose whatever you want. I'm going to use something like this, I think, because I just think it makes the most sense. And then I'm just going to drag and drop it over the top, probably get the bits which have the most texture, and then I'm just going to clip that to the pieces of text once I group the text. So I've grouped that, and now I can just clip and mask that on, and then I can change this to anything I really want, really. As you said, it's personal preference. When you go for your blending modes, you're probably going to want something that looks normal. I'm just going to change this to normal. So make sure your text is on normal, and then you have your texture on subtract, and then it adds like this little bit of grainy effect over the top of the text, which works really nicely. So that's the text done. Next thing we're going to do is just drop the Barcelona logo in there. So if we do that, now we can just put this in here. And what you're going to do now is just put this in the corner, position it there, and then we're just going to reduce the opacity down to about 7, 16, something like that. And then it's just in the background, so it's the nice little logo just breaking up the image. So now we've got our image, we've got our rectangle going across the screen, we got our text. The next thing we're going to do is probably add some drop shadows to the text, so it adds a bit more texture. Reduce the opacity down to about 30, that should be good. And now we need to add the number in the background. So we're just going to get text tool, type 10, and then you're going to need to find the font that I'm using, which is going to be a Levi brush. Increase the size of this, and then we're going to rotate it on its side. So we want this quite big so you can actually see it. You don't want it rotated too much though, otherwise it'll make it a bit hard to read. And then we're just going to change this to a goldy yellow color. So now we've got that. I'm going to move this below the Messi's head so it doesn't get affected too much. And then we're just going to probably make sure the drop shadow isn't affecting this too much. So we're just going to move that in a bit. And then if you can see here, if I zoom in, you can see there's a bit of a harsh edge there. So if you have that, you just need to get your eraser and just go across it like so, like I'm doing, and then you barely see it. So there we go, it's gone pretty much. Zoom out a bit, and we're just going to select our number 10, give it a drop shadow itself, and then we're going to overlay it. So personal preference this really. I'm going to use soft light because I think that blends the best, and then I'm going to reduce the opacity as well. So now it's in the background. As you can see, we're nearly at the finishing point. So if I go back to the main poster, this is what we had. This is what we've got at the end. And we have got we're pretty much there. We need to add some red, and then we need to add these circles and lines at the side. So if I just shut off these images. So now we're going to add the red, which is going to go at the top. So if I create a new layer, and then you're just going to get the paintbrush, and you're going to select a red color, which is going to be that. Okay. Then you're going to zoom out, and you're just going to click once, and then click once at the bottom as well. So you've got your reds, and now you just need to change this to screen so it blends a bit better. So that's the red done. Now we just need to get the circles and the lines. So what you're going to do for this is select your pen tool and get your stroke, and you're just going to draw a line all the way down. We got our line now. So now we need to go to the stroke, and we just need to change it to a dotted line. And then you go to more options, and you can round it off, just play around with it and decide what you want it to look like. So I'm going to make it look like that for now. So it's got the design going across, and then I'm just going to change this to probably like something like overlay. So now it's on the design, and I'm just going to move it below some of these objects, maybe below that as well. So as you can see, it's going down the page, which looks quite nice. And you can reduce the opacity of this if you want it to blend more. If you don't, it's personal preference really. And then we need to select our ellipse tool and just draw these circles. So depending on what you want them to look like, you can add this circle, and then you can add as many as you want really. I added 3 on my design, just because I felt it looked best, and then I just Command J them twice. I used the Command T and then the Shift button, and I moved it down the page so make sure they were in line, and then I Control T and then hold Shift again and made sure they're still in line, like so. There you go, there's the 3 circles that I was showing you about. Group them together, Command T, and then we can move them up or down the page if we want to. And I just changed this to overlay as well, so now they blend in with the image a bit more. And I maybe just reduce the opacity a bit so they don't overwhelm the image. That's pretty much it for this. We've got all the elements, so I'm just going to go back and show you. We've got all the elements. We've got the 10, we've got the reds, drop shadows, and the text, and the image. So the next thing to do is just basically finish this design, and that's going to be done by using a camera raw filter. I'm going to probably group it all together first, like so. If I just do that, and then I Command J and then Command E, and that just makes it a complete image. And now I'm just going to select this, and then I'm going to layer via cut. So now I've cut it from the background. Now I've got our image, delete that, and now we're ready to use the camera raw filter. So if we go onto the camera raw filter, we just need to basically add a bit of texture into this, so like so. And exposure you can bring out, contrast, highlights or not if you don't want to. I'm going to bring the shadows darker a bit. The whites you can increase, the blacks you can. And then you bring out the texture. This is where it gets really good. And the clarity. And then if you want to dehaze it, if you don't, personal preference again. Then you can bring the vibrance out and the saturation. And then we get to the curve bit where we just bend it a little bit of an S curve. Don't want it too harsh, otherwise it sort of loses its effect a bit. And then we can go to sharpening and sharpen the image if we want to, just so it doesn't lose some of its color, you know. And then effects is the last one, which I add about a 10 grain just for another added effect. So as you can see, we've created our poster. It looks pretty good. It looks basically similar to one we created before, and I'm going to use this in some of my designs myself. So if you guys want to follow on the tutorial, I'll leave the images below, and if you did enjoy, please leave a like. You don't have to, but it'd be nice, and let me know if you subscribe, because I'd love to see some support on these videos. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.